Hi there! So before this video starts, I would like to give a really big thank you to Wix for sponsoring this week's video. Wix is a website building platform used by a variety of people. Whether you're an artist, photographer, blogger, writer, baker, literally anything, Wix can help you make any website that you need. Making a website seems like something you would need intensive background in, and just a lot of experience to do. Trust me when I say there's no coding necessary, there's no anything necessary other than having hands, I guess. There are drag and drop features, there are text editors, there's scaling and cropping, you can add filters. It's completely customizable, and as someone who really enjoys creative freedom, it's something that I really appreciate about Wix. Since I'm an artist, I thought it was probably a good idea if I had a portfolio website, especially since I do a lot of my work online. Wix definitely provided an excellent opportunity for me to make that. After using Wix, I can highly recommend it, and if you also want to make your own website, portfolio, website, or otherwise, go to wix.com/go/Antics to create your very own website today. Thank you so much to Wix again for sponsoring this video, and with that, let's get started. Hello and welcome back to my channel. Hope you're doing well. So out of my time filling in different sketchbooks, it's become a tradition for me to decorate the cover. I've been doing this since about my 5th sketchbook, I want to say. I'll either make the sketchbook myself and make it look however I want it to look, or I will paint or draw on the cover of my current sketchbook. So that's what I decided to do with this one. As you may or may not know, I started a new sketchbook recently, and by recently I mean about 2 months ago. And it was about time for me to get to painting on the cover. Since this cover is just one solid color, it definitely provided a lot of options. A lot of people tend to not decorate covers that have like some sort of design on it, but there is a way. It can be done, I promise you. But this one just makes it a little bit easier. Before I even put pen to paper, I knew that I wanted to draw my OC Andy on the cover, because if you aren't aware, they are my main OC that I recently redesigned, and I'm really in love with their new design, so I just wanted to draw them on the cover, especially since that does represent a lot of what I draw, because I draw a lot of my OCs, especially Andy now. I also wanted there to be some sort of star design or pattern around them, just to add a little bit of interest to it. I always like to label which sketchbook I'm using, so this one is my 16th sketchbook, so I would like to write sketchbook 16 on it, and I thought that having the stars would be a really cool way to do that, because then I could put the text in the stars. So I thumbnailed some of my ideas, and whenever I thumbnail, I usually thumbnail like 3, but for this one I actually liked the first thumbnail the best, which never happens, but I did. So after I decided that that was the one I wanted, I did a bigger thumbnail sketch just to plan out some of the finer details a little bit more, and then I got to it. One thing that I should have thumbnailed was the back of the sketchbook and also the spine, because right when I went to film, I decided that I wanted the star pattern that I settled on, which is just like scattered stars behind the character. I decided to have that extend onto the back of the sketchbook since there isn't any clear like divide between them. Like obviously there's the front and the back, but it's not like a spiral bound sketchbook, and so the material that the cover is made out of, it's just stretched across the full length of the sketchbook instead of being 2 separate pieces, and so I wanted to bring that design throughout the entire sketchbook a little bit more. But I didn't think of that until I started filming, and so I didn't have any real plan for how these stars are going to be laid out, which I definitely should have done. I think it still turned out okay, but I think it could have been a lot better if I had planned that ahead of time. I wasn't exactly sure what I would use to sketch on. Normally I would use a pencil, just a regular pencil. So normally with a lighter color cover, I always just use regular pencil, but that obviously wouldn't have worked here, so I tried a colored pencil. A white colored pencil did not work at all. This material on the sketchbook cover is like a faux leather, so I should have known that the pencil wouldn't have worked out, but I just didn't think about it for some reason. So I ended up using this white charcoal pencil that I had, which is probably the first time I've used it, if I'm being honest, but I'm glad that I had it, because if I didn't, I probably wouldn't have been able to figure out what to use. What I was able to do for erasing, I actually had a little jar of water and then a rag that I would wet and wipe, and it actually worked out really well. This material like dries really quickly, so it didn't take long at all once I put the water down, and it completely erased the charcoal, so that worked out great. And then after I painted the whole thing, that's what I used to erase the other sketchy charcoal lines that you could still see. Whenever I use acrylic paint, I always like to take a picture of the finished sketch before I get to the actual painting part. This is just because acrylic paint is a very opaque medium, so it would just cover up everything, and I'd have no idea what I was doing. So I always like to take a picture of the sketch before I get to painting, so then that way I can reference the lines that I had before in case I just really liked what I had and couldn't quite capture it. Normally when I paint I paint on just regular paper. I don't do a lot of finished acrylic paintings, so that was one challenge that I definitely had. But also the sketchbook cover is like dark gray. Normally I just paint on paper, and so the background that I used is white. I did paint on brown once, but it was a pretty light brown. This is my first time, I think, at least that I can remember, of me painting on a darker color. Because of that, I needed more layers than I would normally put on, because you could really see the dark gray coming through the paint. To be honest, I think I could have done a little bit more layers, especially on the stars. Really, the stars could have used more layers. You can really see it, but I kind of got impatient, so I didn't. Oh yeah, I didn't even... The reason I chose acrylic paint, it's not the medium that I typically go towards. I don't know, whenever I want to have an acrylic-y painting look thing, if I ever want to have like a painted look that I don't want to use watercolor for, did that make sense? I'm gonna pretend it did. I usually go for Posca markers, but I was really nervous about how the Posca would take to this material. I don't know, just I've used Posca on material before and I feel like it chips off fairly easily, and I have a planner, like a bullet journal planner that I use to, you know, plan. And it has a very similar material to the cover of this sketchbook, and I used Posca to decorate the cover of that, and it's already like fading and it's scratched up, so it just doesn't take to this material very well, or at least that's how I assumed the sketchbook would react to me using Posca on it, so I just decided to go for acrylic paint. I could use practice in acrylic paint anyway, it's fine. Looking at it now, I definitely don't hate it, but I feel like there are a lot of things that could have been improved with it. I think it would have been a lot better if I was drawing this like on paper with Copics, like if this was just a regular illustration that I was making rather than me painting on the cover of my sketchbook. I was very, very much out of my element this one. Like I said, I don't use acrylic paint very often. I am definitely not the most experienced with acrylic paint. I've also never made an illustration on this material. I mean, I have. I just said that I did. But I mean like a more refined, complex illustration like this one. I've never done that on this type of material before. And also I was sketching with a white charcoal pencil, which again, I've never done. Because of that, there are definitely some issues. Like I said, I got really impatient with waiting for the paint to dry. So there's definitely some patchiness. I for sure kept smearing the acrylic paint, which was real annoying. Since I was so out of my element and just really not comfortable with anything going on in this, there's definitely a lot of issues. I had a hard time getting the shape of the stars right, although I feel like that's fairly common, let's be real. Stars are a little difficult to make. I feel like there are also some proportional issues with the way I drew Andy. I feel like their head is too big. I didn't get the foreshortening quite right. In their leg, there's some issues with the shoes. And the shoes I'm especially upset about. This is going to be a little tangent, but it's fine. Normally I really enjoy drawing shoes, and it's something that I think I'm very good at. It's something I'm very confident in. Yes, I said that correctly anyways. And it's something that a lot of you guys enjoy about my art too. It's something that I constantly get questions about. Everyone wants me to make a shoe tutorial soon, I promise. So I don't know, just the shoes in this one I'm really not happy with. It's not that I think the shoes themselves are bad, it's just compared to what I know I'm capable of. I know that they could have been better, but again, I'm really bad at acrylics. I think the main thing with acrylics that I struggle with most is being able to get those finer details. I don't know, maybe I just need different brushes, but I don't know, I can't do it, which is why I typically try to go with Poscas. I did end up using Poscas for some final touches and then an attempt at line art, but I would have much preferred if I could do the entire thing in Posca. But we've been over that. It wouldn't have been possible, and I'm very sad about it. I think the part about the drawing that I like the most is the sweater. I really enjoyed drawing it. I think it's the best looking part of all of it. But again, I think that there are some things that could have been improved on. I don't think I drew Andy very accurately. I just couldn't quite get it right. I don't know what the issue was. Another fault that I have with acrylic paints. I don't know, I feel like it's not the medium for me. I'm impatient. I like picking from colors, and acrylic paint takes a little bit of patience, and also knowledge of colors, which I don't really have. I mean, I have a little bit, but not a lot. Anyways, I'm really bad at mixing colors is what I'm trying to say. I think the hair and the sweater is really accurate, and then their eyes and shoes because those are the same color. The details on their sweater, I'm pretty sure I just used Posca for towards the end of the drawing. I think I might have put down a messy layer of acrylic and then I touched it up with Posca. I can't remember, this was a while ago that I made this now. I remember just really struggling with trying to get the pants right because the way that their pants are, it's like dark and like slightly desaturated, but you can still tell that it's blue. It's like kind of like a slightly desaturated navy blue. Maybe navy blue is it's a navy blue. Their pants are navy blue. I was thinking of royal blue. So many blues. But I couldn't quite get that color right. Adding black just made it very dull and not the color I was going for. I would try eating. Don't eat your acrylic paint. I don't know why that was the word that came to mind. Please don't eat your acrylic paint, guys. I tried adding a tiny bit of black is what I was trying to say. But even just like the tiniest drop, it just didn't come out looking right. But then it's like, I would try and add purple and it made it too purple. I just needed to get it to be that navy blue, which I really couldn't get. I think if I had a tube of Payne's gray, it would have made it a little bit easier because it's kind of a similar color. So I think I would just need to do a little bit of mixing and I would have gotten it, but I don't got that, so suffering it is. I also remember when I started painting the hair, I got a little worried because I could not tell for the life of me what was going on. But I do think that out of all of the parts of the drawing, the hair is one of the things that came out better, which is a relief because I mean, I like drawing hair and I think I'm good at it and I already messed up on the shoes, so I would have been extra upset, but it's fine. I also think the style looks a little bit different. I don't know, maybe it's just because, again, I was using a different medium that I'm not super comfortable with, and so a different style just kind of came out because I couldn't do the things I would normally do, which I think was fun. By the time I got to the stars, I wasn't quite sure how to tackle them. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no plan. Again, a lot of it was kind of an afterthought. I didn't really plan out any colors, which I really should have done. Andy has stars on their sweater as like a part of their design, but those are white, and I didn't want to make the stars white in the background just because I felt like it would be too harsh of a contrast. I really wanted the focus to be on Andy, so I knew making them a pure white would not have worked out. So I decided to go with a really, really pale, not really, really pale, just really pale. Maybe not even. A pastel yellow. I decided to go with that in the background. The first layer was way too peachy. I decided to put it down anyway because I already mixed a lot of it. And I also thought that it would be a nice base layer because if I was going to go over it anyway, I didn't think it mattered a whole lot. If anything, it would make the yellow color be a little nicer because there was a lighter color underneath. If that makes sense. I don't know if that's actually true. That's just what I was telling myself. When I got to the smaller stars, again, I think I just needed a smaller paintbrush, but I didn't have one, so I did my best. I wasn't too worried about the edges of the stars because I knew I wanted to go over the outline with this darker yellow Posca pen that I had. So really I just needed to make it look like a star. I wanted there to be a variety of sizes in stars, but I wanted the biggest ones to be 2 of them right next to Andy and then 1 on the back. Like I said, I wanted to put the text in the stars, so I wanted the biggest star, the one that said sketchbook, and then I wanted the other star right next to it be a little smaller, or a lot smaller now that I'm looking at it. And then that would have the number 16 because it was my 16th sketchbook. And then on the back, I like to put my initials. I allowed myself to do other big stars, but I wanted those 3 to be some of the largest. And this is where I messed up a lot. It was a rough time, man. I kept putting my hand in the acrylic paint. I kept smearing it. It was horrible. But in the end, I really like how it looked. I also decided to write sketchbook 16 on the spine, which I did mostly off camera. It was really frustrating to do, and I was just over it. A part of it was that it was such a small surface and also on the side. I believe I can't remember why I had such a hard time drawing it. I think I was running out of the paint. So I think I literally just took my yellow Posca and then went over it and then took a white Posca and wrote sketchbook 16 on it and then added 2 little stars next to it, but it looks really crappy even now. I guess it's not too big of a deal because it is the spine. It is the part that gets folded and bent and rubbed across things more often, so if there is any part of the sketchbook that would fade, it would be the spine. But either way, it was really frustrating. Jumping back to Andy, I probably should have talked about this earlier, but I wish I made the line art on Andy a little bit more consistent, because I have this really warm purple Posca that I really like, and I really like using it for line art. It just makes the drawing look so much softer, but for parts of like their hair, there wasn't enough contrast between them, and I didn't like the way that it looked. But I wish I had just done it anyway, because some parts of the line art are black and some parts are that purple, and I think it's a little off. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world, but I feel like it would have benefited from having a little bit more consistency. And then as a final touch on the end, I feel like there wasn't enough focus on Andy, and I feel like the stars were a little bit too distracting. So I decided to put a thin white outline across the entire character and in front of the stars, just to make the character pop out of those a little bit more. And then in terms of the writing, I used the purple Posca pen I said earlier, just because it was the best choice I had. The white definitely would have just not been able, it would have been legible, is the correct term. If I used white, it wouldn't have been legible, but I feel like the black, again, would have been too harsh of a thing, but I didn't want to bring in the other colors, so I just went with that. In the end, I like it. I think it stands out very nicely. And there we go, there's the finished thing. Let me know what you think about it. I kind of have mixed feelings about it. Again, considering I was very out of my element, I think that it came out pretty nice. Of course, there are things that could have been improved, but I think in time, once I get better at acrylic paint, I would be able to tell a little bit more what those things are. But let me know what you guys think about it, and let me know if you paint your sketchbook covers or if you otherwise decorate your sketchbook covers. I would highly recommend it if you don't. It makes it feel a lot more personal, and I feel like whenever I do decorate a sketchbook, it just makes me want to work in it more, so I'd recommend it, and also it's just really fun. And yeah, that's about all I have for you today, so give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, if you enjoyed it, thoughts on the drawing, tips for acrylic paint. I need it, please. And if you are new here, consider subscribing. Hello, my name is Oliver. I post a new video every single Wednesday, make a lot of fun stuff with art. I don't normally work in acrylic paint, but I do draw a lot of my own original characters, occasionally making fan art. We just have a fun time over here, at least I like to think so. And if you want to see more of my art, you can also follow me on social media. They will be linked on screen now and in the description box below. I would recommend following me on Instagram. That is where I'm most active. That's where I post my art, all of that fun stuff. There will also be some videos on screen now and linked in the end card for you to check out if you want. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you next week. Bye.